Hey guys, welcome to another Pokemon Challenge. I really like the reception I got from the first one. Some of you guys subscribed, some of you guys followed, some of you guys are new here, and if so, welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're just chilling in your homes, watching me. Yeah, that's great. Anyway, I'm bad at thank yous. So, I decided to do my next challenge based off of some of the suggestions I got in the previous comments, and this one comes from a guy by the name of Andy Snyder, who requested I try beating Soul Silver with either Paris/Parasect. He also recommended Whitney's Miltank or Tentacool, but I happen to have a soft spot for Paris, Tiny Mushroom Crab, Snip Snip. So I thought, you know, that sounds like a decent challenge. Since, let's be honest, Flareon wasn't that big of a challenge. The whole idea was to get my feet wet when it comes to this kind of thing. Flareon is my favorite Pokemon, and most of the challenge came from only having just one Pokemon. For the most part, Flareon is an evolved Pokemon, and with the exception of Lance, I pretty much didn't have an issue during that entire time. Now, Paris, on the other hand, was an entirely different can of worms, or can of mushroom bugs. To begin with, Paris' stat totals are not exactly ideal. He's not the weakest Pokemon, but he's definitely not up there. He's not an evolved Pokemon to begin with. And then his speed is just abysmal, and his HP isn't great either. So fast Pokemon that hit hard are going to give us a lot of issues during this run. This is relevant because to make matters worse, take a look at that weak to list. Oh no, that's not, wow, okay, that's fun. Now he does have a couple benefits. Paris can come with two different abilities, one of which is Effect Spore, the other one is Dry Skin. Now, in my case, my Paris wound up with Dry Skin, which is probably the worst of the two. So, great, thank you for that. Now, the benefits of Dry Skin are that if it's raining, I gain 1/2 of my maximum HP back. In addition, if I'm hit by a Water-type move, I gain 1/4 of my maximum HP back, which is pretty nice. On the flip side, a major issue is that harsh sunlight will cause me to lose half my maximum HP at the end of each turn, which is horrible. And in addition, fire type attacks will do 25% more damage, which, you know, I just feel like that's not necessary. I'm already ×4 weak to fire. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. Back on the positivity end though, Paris can learn a decent amount of moves. The natural ones he gets are decent, such as Giga Drain or X-Scissor, and by TM he has a pretty wide array of options at his disposal, so I think this is definitely doable. I just think we're gonna have a bad time. So before we begin, we will go through the rules as usual. Rule number 1, I can only use Paris in battle, which I thought was a given, and of course, I can use other Pokemon for HM purposes and for no other reason. Following that, no cheating or exploiting, I think that's also a given. And the third thing, I'm gonna try this, and regret it, no items in battle. I will be allowed to use items out of battle, like for the Elite Four in between fights, but not during battle. I'm gonna make this a real challenge. Now I hate myself, so I replaced Chikorita with Paris, so my rival will start with a fire starter. So, yay. Great, I love that. Paris starts out with Scratch, which is actually a pretty decent move, and he gets both Stun Spore and Poison Powder at level 6. So already, early on, at least with the regular trainers, Paris doesn't have too many issues by himself. I do feel that a lot of this run is gonna involve luck. There's a lot of things about Paris that involve luck, and just not getting hit by things that are gonna destroy us, especially with Dry Skin as the ability. I mean, one fire move could insta-kill me at any point. A single flamethrower and I am dead, basically, even if it's a low-level one. I do manage to persevere through the High Priest, eventually, after much trial and error, and crippling depression. And the only reason I did it is I managed to get a Stun Spore off and got insanely lucky with Paralysis. I can't be relying on Paralysis forever, but it is a factor that I'm going to consider for later battles. After that, I did wind up trying to do Faulkner's Gym, and while I did manage to get through his trainers, Faulkner's Pidgeotto was just impossible. Gust is too strong, and I wasn't fast enough to be able to hit him with anything, and Stun Spore decided it really didn't feel like working. Didn't help that his Pidgey decided it was a really neat idea to just hit me with Sand Attack. Just all the time. So, already Stun Spore's abysmal accuracy is lowered even more so. Thank you for that. I am so happy you did that to me. So yes, as such, it's time to grind. Started grinding in the ruins of Alth, and when I got bored of that, I just started grinding in a random bush somewhere. I grinded Parisian up to level 18. In addition, he got a new move called Spore. Now, Spore is effectively just a sleep move, but this is insanely relevant, because sleep, if you're lucky, again, can be better than paralysis. It really depends on the situation. I decided to give it a go and put his Pidgeotto to sleep, since I pretty much blasted through his Pidgey now at twice its level. And somehow, I still don't know how, luck was on my side, and Pidgeotto never woke up, and I was able to just put him down. I don't feel like I did that in a way that was really deserved, but I also feel like I did that in the only way that would have avoided me grinding to like level 25 or 30 in order to beat that fight. So, victory's a victory. I win. Pidgeotto sleepy time. New strategy. I didn't really have any issues getting through the next cave, and I was actually able to deal with Team Rocket pretty easily in Azalea Town and Slowpoke well. What I did have a problem with was Bugsy. Why does his Scyther know U-turn? Why is that necessary? Why would you do that to me? Why do you hate me, game? So yes, I think it's obvious. It's time to grind some more. I'm starting to sense a lot of grinding in my future. I don't know yet. It's just a feeling, an inkling. You know, something, a prediction, if you will. In any event, I managed to level up to the point where I feel a little safer. This time, I get lucky, and Scyther decides to use Focus Energy instead of U-turn, so I was able to put him to sleep, and then finish him off. And Bugsy's other Pokemon consist of Kakuna and Metapod, so they didn't really put much of a fight. So, now that struggle looks out of the way, it's time to deal with my rival, who is an even bigger problem than Bugsy. Remember how I said that my Paris has dry skin, and as a Paris with dry skin, he is extra vulnerable to fire, like even more so than he would be otherwise as a bug plant. Why is Paris a bug plant? Mushrooms aren't plants, and crabs aren't bugs. He's not anything, whatever. So in order to deal with my rival, I have to be able to deal with taking an ember to the face, which is a sentence I never thought I would have to say. I can't take an ember to the face. It does too much damage, even though I have a level advantage. This is ridiculous. So again, it's off to the grind. And if the Ghastly curses me, I'm pretty much dead, because there's no way I can take a hit from this ember at anything other than max health. I finally get lucky, don't get cursed, and I managed to withstand the single ember and put the Quilava to sleep. 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 Don't wake up. It doesn't wake up. And I managed to beat him. Which, I've never had that much trouble with a rival before. And I don't look forward to seeing that Quilava get stronger. It's off to the grind again, more trainers to fight, nothing really of note. There was a policeman with a Growlithe, which alarmed me, because again, fire. But why does a random policeman want to fight me? I'm a little girl in this game. Like what is your problem? Do you think I'm carrying around the wacky tobacco? I'm just chilling, and you need to chill. Like me. And next on our list is the ever-infamous Whitney's Gym! Hooray! Parisian here is a male. He is a boy. And as a young male, apparently eager with those teenage hormones just mixing around in his brain, he has decided that it is a really neat idea to fall in love with both her Clefairy and her Miltank every time I tried to fight her. And this was a pain in the butt. The heck of it was, there was really nothing I could have done in terms of grinding that would have solved this issue. I just had to keep fighting her and hope for the best, because it wasn't that I wasn't doing enough damage, or that she was like insta-killing me, it was just the Parisian here was like, but I love them. And I'm like, no, she's not that into you, bro. You need to see a therapist. I'm just saying, like, you need to stop. You need to stop. It's time to stop. To make matters worse, sleep and paralysis were also out of the question because Whitney's Miltank is holding a berry. That fixes both of those things. So thank you for that. I am so glad that happened. I really, that's great. That's wonderful. That's the best news I've heard all day. I had to fight her repeatedly, so many times, because again, grinding was irrelevant. And I finally got lucky and managed to power through her without Parisian deciding that true love was more important than not getting squashed by a mill tank. And then I got to the burned tower. And again, my rival is here. That's wonderful. That's great. That's great. It's time to grind! I go to fight him again, and this time I'm able to deal with him without much of an issue. But you know who was an issue? Morty. Morty was an issue. And you know, I actually didn't even expect Morty to be this much of a problem. But the issue I have with him is that I don't have any moves that can do anything other than not very effective damage. I can't use Slash at all because they're ghosts, it's a normal type move. And even though I have Giga Drain, it's still not very effective. And his Gengar is too fast and always knocks me out before I'm able to do enough damage to it. Doesn't matter how much I heal, that Gengar is just too strong. Doesn't help that he also likes to curse me. So thank you for that. I know my Dangerous Darkness is the curse, but I don't actually appreciate it when you curse my Pokemon. I would rather you stop. This is a family-friendly show, and there's no cursing allowed. It was time to grind. This time I just ran all over the place, just fighting as many trainers as I possibly could, even going to areas that I knew I wasn't able to go or do anything effective just yet. I just wanted to get the trainers down, because anything they had, I could pretty much one-hit by this point, and I needed the XP pretty badly, and wild Pokemon were going to take too long. I was able to power through to level 43, which is what I was aiming for, because that is when I get X-Scissor. Now, X-Scissor still isn't very effective, and I can't get any TMs right now that would help me with this not very effective problem. But what it did help with was, A, I was level 43, so Giga Drain did a lot more damage than it used to. B, I didn't have to worry about Giga Drain's power points issue, because Giga Drain only has 10 power points. So if I were to run out, I wouldn't have anything to hit them with, so at least X-Scissor gave me something else to hit them with. Fortunately, this level boost was enough to give Giga Drain enough power to deal with the Gengar, and his Haunters weren't much of an issue outside of that. Now, I'd already reached Olivine before, because, again, I just wanted to fight the trainers in the lighthouse, because I can still go in there at this point. But, obviously, what I needed to do is Surf, which I couldn't, because I didn't catch a Water-type Pokemon. So I caught a Krabby. I'd never actually surfed on top of a crab before. I don't even understand how that works. But it does, so that's what we did. We surfed across the ocean, and got to the next gym in Cianwood City. Now, Chuck here wasn't as much of an issue as I was afraid he was going to be. I did lose once because his Primeape kept double teaming, so that was annoying. And then, it knows Rock Slide. But once I was prepared for that problem, I was able to deal with his Poliwrath without much of an issue, because I was finally in a position where I had typing advantage against something, and for once, my Dry Skin was beneficial because he used Surf on me. At this point, I can fly back to Olivine City, because this is where the game gives me fly, except for the problem that I did not prepare for this, and neglected to catch a flying Pokemon. So guess who's swimming all the way back there? This guy. Yeah, that's great. You ever use a Zubat to fly? I've actually never taught a Zubat fly before. It just never even occurred to me that it could do it. But it can! So that's our flying Pokemon, the Zubat. I don't understand how any of this works. Anyway, I give Jasmine the medicine for the Ampharos, and then I approach the gym fight that I had been dreading this entire time. I have nothing, and I mean nothing, I can throw at her Pokemon that's going to do any amount of decent damage here, and I am way too squished for this Steelix. So it is sleepy time for everything she has, especially the Magnemites actually, who turns out were way more annoying than Steelix ever could have been, mostly because they both know Supersonic, so they confuse me, and they know Thunder Wave, so they paralyze me at the same time. This is annoying. Normally I'd just deal with that with a Switch Out, or, you know, insta them with a Fire type, or anything else, but again, we can only use a Paris. So, we are stuck with this problem. Again, Spore was my best friend, and after a bit of a war of attrition with her last Magnemite, I was able to defeat her and get the next badge. After that, dealing with the Lake of Rage was a pretty simple matter, and then I headed into Team Rocket's HQ, which is a little more aggravating, not because of anything initial, but the double battle with me and Lance against the Grunt and the Admin was a little more obnoxious than I thought it was going to be, purely because Ariana has a Murkrow that thought it was a really decent idea to just hit me all the time with Wing Attack. And, you know, that hurts. It hurts a lot, so I had to grind a bit for this fight. It wouldn't have been too bad if Lance went all out in this fight, but even at the end of it he points out that he was just holding back. And I get that for this challenge it should have been just me versus them, but it was a scripted event so I couldn't exactly avoid it. Surprisingly, dealing with Bryce was not nearly as obnoxious as I was afraid it was going to be. I was afraid of ice because I have a weakness to that, but it never really seemed to hit me too hard even when it did, and most of his Pokemon were also water type, so I did have a type advantage with Giga Drain. Also, he missed the one time he tried to use Blizzard, so that was really nice. After that, I have to deal with Team Rocket in the radio tower. Now, I wasn't expecting this to be nearly as hard as it turned out to be, but to begin with, most of Team Rocket's Pokemon tend to be Poison type, which wouldn't be too terrible if I had more than one Pokemon, but basically if I get poisoned, I'm just done, and I have to go back to the Pokemon Center, or use an antidote out of battle. But if it happens at the beginning of the battle, and it does, then I'm pretty much dead, because Paris doesn't do enough damage to really sweep entire teams at this point. Dealing with Petrol was way, way harder than I thought it was going to be. He has nothing but coughings and a single wheezing, and first of all, why would you ever make a team that way? Second of all, this was a nightmare, because all he does is try to poison me, and it never ever stops. I had to grind a bit, then I just doubled down on my Spore strategy and made sure every single one of his Pokemon was asleep before I attacked, because I couldn't risk being poisoned too early. This strategy works fortunately because Paris is faster than all of his Pokemon, but Paris was not faster than Ariana's newly leveled up Murkrow. And again, we're back to grinding, just to deal with a single Pokemon, because it insta-killed me. After that nonsense, it was time to finally deal with Archer, who was more annoying than anyone else so far, because he has a Houndoom. Now, this wouldn't have been an issue because I can one-hit KO this Houndoom. The problem is that the Houndoom's faster than me, and it always does Fire Fang, which instantly knocks out Parisian. There was no way around this. I had to grind, and I grinded a long, long time. Way more than I thought I would have to. All the way up to almost level 70, and I honestly thought I had to get to level 70, doing nothing but knocking out repeats of the same Pokemon over and over again. And I don't even want to talk about how ridiculous it is trying to level up a Pokemon this high a level, knocking out Pokemon that are nothing higher than level 15 tops. But when I finally went back to fight him, just a few levels short of level 70, something amazing happened. His Houndoom missed. Now, I didn't expect this to happen. I did not plan for this, nor did I prepare for it. Frankly, I was stunned at first. But, you know, I wasn't really in a position to look a gift horsey in the mouth. So, yeah, I just put him to sleep and won that battle. And, I took what I could get because I really just could not believe how lucky I got that time. I'm not even sure if I was able to withstand that Fire Fang had it hit. I was just testing, but it worked out. So, yay! After wandering through the ice cave and getting to the next gym, we deal with Claire. Now, Claire was a little alarming because she's a dragon trainer and dragons are obnoxious in this generation. I didn't really have anything to throw at them, and she wasn't too bad until...
Hello, pathetic human. It is me once again, your mortal nemesis. Perhaps if you bow before my power, perhaps then I may spare your pathetic, meaningless life and what short years you have left to you. But I know better. You're too stubborn for that. Instead, you will sit there and struggle, attempting to fight a battle that you have no hope of winning. You fool. You unperishable fool. There is no stopping me, and there is no defeating me in this battle to the death, especially with a lowly, pathetic Paris, who struggles in vain to put off succumbing to the fungi that grows within him.
So yeah, Kingdra and I have always had issues. I have always disliked this Pokemon because of his typing and how annoying he can be. And he decided to crit me with a Dragon Pulse immediately. That was great. So I went back and tried again, and this time the Dragon Pulse didn't crit, and then I put him to sleep.
You fool, you think you have stopped me, but instead you have only delayed the inevitable. I will return, stronger than ever, and see you fall.
And then I knocked him out. So that was good. So yeah, Claire wasn't too bad. Went through the Dragon's Den because Claire makes you. And I forgot that Soul Silver makes you go deal with Lugia. So I got lost in the Whirl Islands because I always forget this place. And I haven't played the game in like 10 years, so yeah, it happens. So that was fun. Threw a Master Ball at Lugia. And then since Krabby can learn both Whirlpool and Surf, but not Waterfall, which, listen, if you're going to get the other two, you might as well give the third. I decide that this is a running joke now, and I made a legendary, another HM slave, so Lugia has my Waterfall now. So yeah. Also, speaking of, besides Lugia, I also named all my HM slaves after rock stars again. Feel free to guess in the comments. If you get it right, you get a platinum rock star. Oh yeah. Not just gold, but platinum. Victory Road wasn't really too bad, and I got some decent levels, but then I had to face my rival for the last time in this game, and as I feared, his Typhlosion is faster than me, which means I get insta-killed. Wonderful. You know, I feel like grinding is a thing that happens to me a lot in this run. I feel like grinding is just most of what I do, and frankly, I'm a little sick of it, but, you know, a challenge is a challenge, and off we go. After a bunch of grinding, and I mean a bunch of grinding, I finally managed to get through his Typhlosion and deal with the rest of his party without much of a problem. And after that battle, it is on to the main event, the Elite Four. Now, I don't think I'm high enough level to really beat the Elite Four, but I still wanted to give it a go, just to see how well it went. Now, Will here was of least concern, simply because I have a full type advantage against his entire team outside of his first two, which I could insta-kill. Since he's nothing but Psychic, Bug is super effective, and he also has a Slowbro that I can Giga Drain. So he wasn't really much of a challenge at all, and I got some decent XP off of him. The next fight, Koga, was the complete opposite. He's nothing but poison, and I hate that so much. This was a nightmare. Honestly, it had nothing to do with the poison necessarily, but it had to do with his stupid Crobat. It is too fast, and I know that's like Crobat's thing, but yeah, this was a problem. I had to be able to withstand a single hit from him. There was no getting around that no matter how fast I got. And then I had to make sure he was asleep. And then I had to make sure I knocked him out before he woke up. And then I had 3 more Pokemon to deal with after him. So this was not fun. I was able to develop a strategy around putting him to sleep after I got a few more levels from grinding again, just because of Koga. After that was Bruno, who wasn't really that bad. It was alarming that his Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee know Fire Punch and Blaze Kick, respectively, but I was able to one-hit the Hitmonlee, and as long as I put Hitmonchan to sleep, I didn't have to worry about that either. So ultimately, Bruno was not really too difficult. And Karen, the last member of the Elite Four before the champion, also wouldn't have been difficult if not for the problem of Gengar, who, you know, Gengar isn't even a Dark type. He's Ghost Poison. You can't just throw that at me. Listen, that's not fair. You cheater. Anyway, her Houndoom actually gave me problems, admittedly, early on, again, because it was faster. So I had to grind a bit again to get faster than it. But once I did, again, I could insta-kill her entire team except the Gengar. And the major problem with Gengar wasn't that I was afraid of dying. As long as I Giga Drained him, I did enough damage and I absorbed enough HP to survive anything he could throw at me. The problem was that her Gengar really enjoyed using Spite, and this would be a major issue. Because I, in my infinite wisdom, decided to use my max ethers and elixirs a little earlier than I should have. So I wound up not having any to deal with Lance, which means I had no power points, basically, for anything. And, Lance is the worst. Again, I don't know what my issue is with him. I don't know why we always get it this far and always have a problem with specifically him. But here we are again, dealing with Lance's dragons, and yo, this was a mess. Okay, to begin with, there was no way I was even gonna beat him anything less than level 100. So this situation turned into me repeatedly challenging the Elite Four to the point that I could sweep all of them without much of a problem just to gain XP to get Parisian up to level 100. Once I managed to pull that off, even then, Lance was nearly impossible. I have no type advantages, and I have too many weaknesses for him to exploit. Gyarados wasn't too bad because I am faster than it, so I could put it to sleep and Giga Drain it down. Aerodactyl is faster than me, but I managed to put it to sleep and then Giga Drain it and develop a solid strategy for knocking him out without much of an issue. Also, my damage is very specific in that I could predict that Lance would always use a full restore here, so I could prepare for that strategically. The main issue that I had dealing with him is once I got past those first two, he had 3 Dragonites, at least one of which knows Fire Blast. Basically, I couldn't risk getting hit by any of these guys, and he still has a Charizard mixed in, and I don't even need to discuss why that's a problem. The biggest challenges I had were 3 things. To begin with, I really couldn't afford to take a hit because I couldn't risk him doing a fire move or a move that's super effective. Even if he didn't use Fire Blast, things like Outrage would also insta-kill me, so it was pretty irrelevant. The only thing that he ever hit me with that didn't kill me was Hyper Beam, and I always loved it when he did that because it did almost no damage and then he lost a turn. That was the nicest thing. The second big issue is that I don't know whether it was bad luck or if it's just a Dragonite thing, but these Dragonites refused to stay asleep, and they all take at least 3 hits to knock out. That leading me into my third issue is that my power points were dangerously low by this point. I managed to make it through the Elite Four, conserving as many power points as I possibly could, doing only the attacks I absolutely had to, and managing to get through Karen without getting hit by a stupid spite, and still, I was dangerously low. I fought Lance more times than I care to count, hoping, praying in vain that the stars would align and I would get lucky, and these Pokemon would stay asleep, or miss, or I would get a lucky crit, or something, and it just didn't happen for literal hours. I was at this one fight for hours, and eventually, it happened. I can't believe it happened. I was very close to actually giving up breaking down and using items in battle, but I did it. I was down to my last power point against his final Dragonite, and I knew that there was no way I'd survive a struggle attempt, and I knew that there's no way I'd take another hit, and I knew that this single scratch was not going to be enough to knock it out. But do you know what Parisian did in that final moment? Parisian did a critical, and I won. And I have never been full of so much pride and joy in my life. I had pulled it off. I beat Lance with a single level 100 Paris. I played through the entire game with just that Paris. I didn't use any items in battle. I did it, you guys. And I am so happy about this. I'm in the Hall of Fame with my single Mushroom Bug, who has steadfastly refused to give in to his mushroom overlords and allow his brain to be taken over. He is an individual, and I am so proud of him. Good work, little guy. You deserve this. Now, at this point, you see the video is very close to ending, and you're probably wondering, hey, you know, there's still one more challenge in this game. Aren't you going to try to beat Red? Play through Kanto and try that? Well, I thought about it. I gave it some thought. Kanto, I'm not concerned about. I'm level 100, and most of those gyms are pretty easy sweeps at this point, even with a single Pokemon. The problem we have, then, is can I beat Red? And the answer is no. No, I seriously can. I did some research on this, because I didn't want to waste any more time and delay this video any longer if I knew this was a lost cause. So out of blatant curiosity and research, I went on Smogon and used their battle calculator to see if I could deal with Red's Charizard, who was the one thing on that team that I was legitimately worried about. And the answer is that no. No, I can't. Not with these rules anyway. At the level that Charizard is at, he is going to be faster than me. There's no way around it. Parisian's capped out. I can't make him any faster than he already is. So that Charizard is going to outspeed me and is going to hit me with one of the 2 fire moves it has. And even if it doesn't, it'll probably hit me with the flying move. This is going to be impossible. Unless I use battle items. And at that point, well, the challenge is over. I've already lost. So I decided not to bother with Kanto and dealing with Red, because I kind of want to end this video on a high note. I'm in the Hall of Fame. Parisian did it. I don't need to go the extra mile here, especially now that I know that there's no way I can pull it off with the rules allowed. Maybe it would be doable if my Paris hadn't been unlucky and gotten the ability Dry Skin. If it was Effect Spore, the other Paris ability that it sometimes gets, that might be different, because I wouldn't be taking an extra 25% of fire damage on top of my already ×4 weakness, so maybe then there might be a chance. But not with this ability, and not with these rules. Again, if I took a bunch of X speeds in and made sure I could outspeed the Charizard and always have it asleep, that might be different because his first Pokemon is a Pikachu, and I'm not really afraid of that at all. But yeah, Red is just out of the question for a Paris. I'm sorry guys, I know you're probably a little disappointed that I didn't even try, but I just didn't want to waste anybody's time and make everybody disappointed. You know, because we did it. We're in the Hall of Fame. We're the champion. If Red wants to stand on a mountain up there forever, you know, I say let him. Don't fight battles we don't need to. It's okay. It's fine. It's all right. If you guys want, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll upload a little video later on of me just trying Red, just to see what happens. I don't mind doing that, but for the purposes of this challenge video, I didn't want to waste any more time because I'm 99% sure it's gonna be impossible. In any event, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy more Pokemon challenges in the future. If you have any specific challenge requests, let me know on Twitter or in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe, because that's a thing we do on YouTube. We like and subscribe videos we enjoy. Unless you hated it, in which case, why'd you watch it this far? That's commitment. I'm proud of you, brother. Or sister. Might be a girl. I don't judge. It's all good. Maybe you're, you're gender binary. Or maybe you're some weird gender that you decided that you would, because you have a right to be who you are. Everyone does, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. And in that regard, you're awesome for who you choose to be in this life. The circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you choose to do with the gift of life that determines who you are. Thank you, Mewtwo. So with that, till next time, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.